Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Entertainment Now podcast. My name is Nick, and once again I am sitting here all by myself. Ian is not with me. So this is actually the season 2 finale of the podcast. We're going to come back at the beginning of January with season 3. Ian will be back for that. We just had some scheduling issues for the last couple of weeks of the season, so I had to do it by myself, which is weird. I felt like super awkward last week doing the podcast by myself. I feel like it took me a little bit of time to kind of get used to what I was doing, but it's been a long time since I've done a podcast by myself. We back in like early 2017 when we first started podcasting, there was a few episodes of it, like we did like a side podcast, which was like all political, and those were like solo shows, but they were only like maybe 10, maybe 12 minutes long, very, very short. So I wasn't used to having to, talk for 40 minutes or whatever it was last episode. But I don't know. It's interesting. Like I said, it's something that just takes me a while to kind of get into. But hopefully this one doesn't sound as awkward as the last episode did at the beginning. But I will say that I finally got caught up with YouTube, because of course we always put all the episodes up on YouTube. But I've been behind lately. I've just been busy doing other stuff, and I just always forgot to. I mean, obviously the podcast goes up every week, but I was I think 4 or 5 episodes behind getting the videos up on YouTube. And so of course this one, because it's an audio only, so the video won't be up, but I'll post the audio up on YouTube, which will be up hopefully by the time this podcast goes up. But as of right now, I'm all caught up. I've got all I think 17. So this is the 18th episode of season 2. So I've got all season 1 up there, and the first 17 episodes of season 2 are all posted on YouTube. So of course, if you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure you give me the old thumbs up and all that YouTube-y kind of stuff, and make sure you leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Spotify or Apple. I guess those are probably the 2 big ones nowadays. But I don't know. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite holiday movies. But before I go into that, so I saw The Marvels. I think it was the opening day, or I saw it twice, opening weekend. So it premiered November 10th here in the U.S., and it's gotten horrible reviews. And I read some reviews before I went and saw it, but I tried not to let it really color my opinion going into seeing the movie. I was trying to go into, because I have enjoyed all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, even the Eternals, which I know is pretty much panned as the worst movie of the MCU. I even enjoyed parts of that. It didn't quite work, but I understood where they were going with it, what they were trying to set up with it. But with the Marvels, it seemed like a lot of people were just shitting on this movie really without knowing anything about it, or going to at least seeing it first. And that's the thing that really drives me crazy. And it's not just Marvel fans that do that. Star Wars fans are notorious for shitting on Star Wars projects before they're released, and I think every fandom has that, where if they think there's something bad, or they think it's going to be bad, they automatically shit on it. But with the Marvels, it seemed almost kind of out of place. I didn't understand, because they're all known properties. I mean, Miss Marvel was fantastic. I watched it. I think I started watching it before I went and saw the Marvels. After I watched the Marvels the first time, I finished watching the series. It's only 6 episodes long. And I didn't think, it's not my favorite MCU TV series or Disney series, but I thought it was really good. And I thought the girl that plays Miss Marvel did a fantastic job, and she was even better in the Marvels. I think she really helped carry that movie. Captain Marvel has had her own movie, which I thought was a really good movie, and it was pretty well received. She's been in several Marvel movies so far, but Brie Larson, and that's the one negative I can say about the Marvels, is that Brie Larson is not the best actress. And I think some of her shortcomings, acting wise, in Captain Marvel, I think were overshadowed by other strong features of that movie and some of the other strong characters in that movie. But in the Marvels, I think it really stood out. Even my wife said that we went and saw it. After we went and saw it, she even said, "Wow, I didn't really realize how bad of an actress she was until that movie." So I definitely see some of the criticism that people do throw at the Marvels, but I think a lot of it, like I said, a lot of it just I think is misplaced because yes, some of the acting isn't the best. The bad guy in the Marvels probably isn't the most dynamic, bad guy they could have done, but it didn't need to be. I think the character served its purpose in the movie, and I think it had it been like, Doctor Doom or somebody like bigger that they would have introduced into this movie, I think it would have been. I don't know. I don't think it would. The villain would have overshadowed the main characters, which that's the movie's about. Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Monica Rambeau. Those three characters as the Marvels was the star of the movie. They didn't want that. Whether they were going to have Kang or somebody else in there, they didn't want that character to overshadow what they were trying to do. To be completely honest, I think some of it really comes down to sexism, which is something that not only is rampant when it comes to movies, it's also rampant coming when we're looking at music also. I think female musicians don't get nearly the recognition that, male musicians do. So when it comes to a movie with three strong female characters, I think it's going to run up against the same thing where there's people out there, male and female, that are going to have a problem with the strong female roles, and I think it's bullshit, and I think at least, and I'm judging that off of a lot of the comments that I see online. I'm in a couple of Marvel Cinematic Universe Facebook groups, and I see a lot of those kind of comments in those groups, like issues that I've seen and I've had with other male characters in other Marvel movies, and other people have had those same issues, but they don't have nearly a strong negative reaction to the male characters as they do the female characters, which it shouldn't be like that. And but unfortunately it's something that we still deal with today. And I think the Barbie movie even dealt with a lot of that too. People had issues with the strong female characters in the Barbie movie. So I don't know, as far as like budgets and box office and stuff goes, it had the Marvels had a big budget. It was $275 million budget, and as of, I'm recording this on Saturday the 18th, so as of yesterday, Friday the 17th, the movie so far had grossed 120.5 million. So that's they're saying that this is going to be the first box office bomb from the MCU. And like I said, it's unfortunate because I thought it was a really good movie. Do I think it's the best Marvel movie ever? No, not at all. And I'm going to talk about the movie, and I'm going to try not to spoil. I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I won't spoil like the main points of the movie. As far as like Marvel Cinematic Universe movies go, so we are currently in Phase 5, right? Because so Phase 5 started with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Then you had Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Then you've got the Marvels. So you got those three movies. And to be honest, like I enjoyed the Marvels more than Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I thought it was better than Quantumania also, which I enjoyed Quantumania, but I understand what they had to do with the Kang character and how that was going to set up everything kind of moving forward. Some of the issues I have with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, it's not really the fault of the movie. It's basically a setup movie, and that's kind of how I look at it, and that's pretty much how it is. But even if you go back to the very beginning of the multiverse saga, which so the phase 3, which like ends the Infinity Saga, ends with Spider-Man Far From Home. So the multiverse saga starts with Black Widow. Then you got Shang-Chi, The Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and then Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and that ends phase 4. And then you're in phase 5 now. But as far as those movies go, like as far as where I would place the Marvels in that, I mean, I think Spider-Man No Way Home is a better movie. And that's, I mean, I really liked Wakanda Forever. Maybe I put Wakanda Forever a little bit above the Marvels. But outside of that, I mean, I think the Marvels, obviously, well, I said Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think the Marvels is better than that. I think the Marvels is better than Doctor Strange. I think it's better than Black Widow, even though I did enjoy Black Widow. I think overall, the Marvels is a better movie because what it sets up, or what it is going to set up. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to spoil the end scenes a little bit. So the end scenes of the Marvels really sets up two things. And that is the inclusion of the X-Men, which they've been talking about how Marvel was going to put or integrate X-Men into the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever since they bought their property a few years ago. And Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange, the last Doctor Strange movie, kind of brought the X-Men at least, very slightly into the MCU with the inclusion of Professor X. But just his character was the only thing that was in that movie. Well, now you're actually seeing at the end credit in the credit scene for the Marvels, you're actually seeing the X-Men now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So you've got Beast and Binary. I won't talk too much about the characters or who's playing them, but I think the bigger surprise is what's going on with Binary, not so much with Beast. But both of their inclusion, that's like the X-Men are actually in the MCU now. There's a door that closes behind them. It has the big X symbol on it. That's like, they're bringing this all in as a alternate universe kind of thing. So yeah, that's really important for the future where the MCU is going to go, because the next MCU movie is Deadpool 3, which has Wolverine in it. So they're going to have to do something with the Marvels, because the having Wolverine in Deadpool 3 is another one of those steps to actually have an X-Men movie in the MCU. So I thought that was really kind of cool. I liked how they did it. I liked how they brought in some of the characters. And if you know anything about Binary, you probably already know, what her role is going to be in the MCU, or at least in the end scenes for the Marvels. The other really cool thing that it does is there's another scene at the end of the movie where it kind of it's a callback to the end of the very first movie in the MCU, which was the very first Iron Man movie. The end of Iron Man, there's the scene at the end where Tony Stark walks through the door and Nick Fury is sitting in the chair, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to be part of this team." Basically, is what he does. Is what he talks about. And there's a scene at the very end where Miss Marvel so the door opens up and Kate Bishop walks in the door. Kate Bishop is a character from Hawkeye. She's a Hawkeye-like character. So she's like an archer. But so she walks through the door, and Miss Marvel's sitting there and basically has the same conversation with Kate Bishop about joining her new group. So her new group is going to be the Young Avengers, which I'm really excited for. I'm not sure if it's going to be a movie. I'm not sure if it's going to be a TV show. But while she's talking to Kate Bishop about that, she also mentions that Ant-Man has a daughter. So Cassie Lang, I'm assuming, is going to be in the Young Avengers. And there's a host of other people in the MCU who can potentially be characters in the Young Avengers, which I'm assuming is going to be headed up by Kamala Khan, of course, as Miss Marvel. But there's some other people that, like I said, are going to be or can be included in there. Obviously, Kate Bishop, who she already talked to, which was, like I said, introduced in Hawkeye. Cassie Lang, which has in the last Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, Quantumania, Cassie Lang was introduced with her own suit, so she's another Ant-Man spinoff kind of character. So she'll be in there. I'm assuming also those are the three that I'm pretty certain are going to be on there. Scar, who was introduced in She-Hulk, is the son of Hulk. So he's another character in the MCU that can be included in there. Tommy Maximoff, which was a character that was introduced in WandaVision, which was Scarlet Witch's son in the TV series. He's a character that can be included in there. Billy Maximoff, which was his brother. So Billy Maximoff in Marvel is Wiccan, and Tommy Maximoff is Speed. Those are two characters. They are established at least in the Marvel comics. So there's definitely a list of characters they can include in there. America Chavez, who was debuted in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, is another younger character that they could throw in there. They've got enough characters to really put together, I think, a pretty good team to do a Young Avengers type series or like show or movie. I'm assuming that's where they're going with all that. There's been this build up slowly over the last couple of years where they're trying to, obviously older characters are like either dying off or retiring. You're losing Tony Stark. You've lost Captain America. Hawkeye is now retired. Black Widow is dead. All those older Avengers characters have died off or gone away. Really, kind of outside of Thor, I think Thor is really the only one left. But who is going to take the mantle of leading the Marvel Cinematic Universe forward? I don't know how many more Spider-Man movies they're going to make. Probably not too many, but eventually that's going to stop also. So they'll need characters to kind of run with Marvel Cinematic Universe, unless they just stop doing the whole thing altogether eventually, which could, is also a possibility because we're kind of in the middle of this superhero overload. I know we've talked about it on the podcast quite a few times, but I think eventually we're going to get to a point where these movies just aren't making the money anymore because people are just kind of tired of seeing these characters, which is funny because we went, outside of Superman and the Michael Keaton Batman, the ongoing joke was always, you can never turn a superhero into a good movie. Outside of those two examples, a lot of them just really bombed or didn't do really all that well. I think there's a couple of decent TV series. Obviously, The Incredible Hulk was a really good TV series. There's some other ones out there too, but for the most part, those movies all kind of bombed until the Marvel Cinematic Universe came along. Until Iron Man came along, and it was really those first couple of movies that really kind of built the Marvel Cinematic Universe into what it is. But it's not what I'm here. I didn't want to talk about the MCU that much. I just want to say that I thought the Marvels was a good movie, in spite of all the negative reviews that it's gotten so far. But we're getting close to the end of the year. Like I said, this is the last podcast episode of the year, so we're getting the time of year where you're going to turn on the TV. Well, obviously you can't really turn on TV anymore, and I guess I should backtrack a little bit. Since we've gone to streaming, everything's all changed. But prior to that, when you're a kid this time of year, you turn the TV on, and like all your basic channels at night would have the great, holiday movies or Christmas movies on. There's got a long list of great Christmas movies that I've always really enjoyed. Some of my favorites. I will say that real quick. I am somebody that thinks Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It is a movie that takes place during Christmas time. I think there is a distinct difference there. Same with Trading Places. I think Trading Places is the same way. It's a movie that takes place around Christmas. Doesn't necessarily make it a Christmas movie. Same with Edward Scissorhands is not a Christmas movie. Batman Returns, I think, is another great example. And speaking of, superhero movies, Batman Returns takes place around Christmas. It doesn't necessarily make it a Christmas movie. I will go. I will die on that cross. That Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. We've argued about that. Ian and I have argued about that many times over the years. We've argued about that on the podcast here too. That he thinks it is a Christmas movie. Like I said, it's a movie that takes place during Christmas. I don't think, to be a Christmas movie, I think it has to have something to do with Christmas. And I guess there's some gray area there with Die Hard, because I can kind of see the argument that there's some Christmas themes, but it's not about Christmas or, the holiday season. It's about, the takeover of, Nakasami Tower, or whatever the name of the building is, and that whole story. It's not anything to do with Christmas in particular. So, so those are some movies that won't be on my list. Probably my favorite movie or definitely one of my favorites, and it wasn't one until probably within the last maybe 8 years or so, eight maybe 10 years, is the Polar Express. I watched Polar Express when it first came out. My wife and I took the kids to see it, I think, when they were pretty little. I don't remember what year that was that came out. Actually, I just looked. It was 2004. So actually, I guess it was probably the year. It wasn't the year it came out. Then it was. Cause I'm trying to think. It might have been when we lived in Tennessee. So the movie had been out for a few years, and I guess one of the local theaters must have been playing it for the holiday season. Maybe that's why we took the kids to go see it. But I remember seeing it like that one time, and then off and on a couple of times. But like I said, it wasn't really probably about 10 years ago that I really started really loving that movie. And I've got a big Polar Express train that I set up. I haven't set it up in the last couple of years, but I used to set it up every year for Christmas. We've got a big table in our basement that my kids had like a Lego city built on, and we move some of the Legos and stuff around. I build the Polar Express train on that table, so it was always kind of cool. And I think I had a Polar Express train that went around our tree there for a while too. Maybe it's definitely a movie I've grown to love. Another one that's really kind of grown on me is the movie Elf. I know it was huge when it was first released back in 2003, but man, it was like it was one of those movies that it took me a couple of years, I think, to finally come around and watch. And it was probably maybe 2005, 2006, maybe somewhere around there, where I finally sat down and watched it. And it was one of those movies that I like instantly loved it. And I'm not the biggest Will Ferrell fan. It's probably one of the very few Will Ferrell movies I really enjoy. But man, he does a great job in that movie. Of course, it's got a great cast of characters in there. Zoe Deschanel's in there, James Caan's in there. It's just a great fun, family fun movie that like I said, as soon as I watched it, it's been one of my favorites since then. Probably my favorite Christmas movie. If I really had to pick one Christmas movie to really put down as my favorite one, I'd probably have to say It's a Wonderful Life. And that's one that I've obviously watched that since I was a kid, and it's kind of like I would say at least for the last probably 10, maybe 12 years, it's like one of my staple Christmas movies that every Christmas Eve I sit down and watch it. Regardless, even if it's just me by myself, I'll sit down and watch that movie. It's just one of those staple Christmas movies for me every year. Another one, I guess, is kind of along the same lines as A Christmas Story. I don't know if they still do it, but there was one of the TV networks, I don't remember if it's TNT or TBS, one of those T channels that every year they play. I think it's every Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, nonstop. They play A Christmas Story, and I was like, it's along the same lines. It's a Wonderful Life, an absolute staple Christmas movie, one that I've loved since I was a kid. It's a great story. And actually I really enjoyed the sequel too. I think the sequel came out just a couple of years ago, and when I sat down to watch it initially, I didn't really know what to expect. But obviously, it's nowhere close to the original. But I still love. I love the original, and the sequel to it it's okay, but obviously I wouldn't put it in my favorites list. But just it's one that I'll occasionally watch. It's not something I have to watch like A Christmas Story. But along the lines is some of those other classic Christmas movies. White Christmas is one I grew up watching. I remember watching White Christmas over at my grandparents' house when I was like 6 or 7 years old. I don't remember if I was 6 or 7, but I was definitely like under 10 years old the first time I watched that, and it's a movie that reminds me of my grandmother whenever I watch that. Another one that I didn't really fully embrace for a few years was the Santa Claus with Tim Allen. Tim Allen's kind of along the same lines as Will Ferrell. I'm not a huge Tim Allen fan. I guess I grew up watching his TV show, but as far as his movies go, I really love the first Santa Claus. I think there's like 8 different ones now, but that's another one I've got to watch. And of course, there's those cartoon classics like, Charlie Brown Christmas, Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, all those great old classic ones that actually I was just at the store. I think I was at Walmart just within the last couple of days, and they had I was looking at the Blu-rays, and they have a Blu-ray collection. I think there's like 18 or 20 different cartoon classic Christmas movies. I think it was like $60 or $70. I was really surprised at the price they had on it. I was maybe eventually I can get it, if it's ever on sale. But because I'd love to have a physical copy of all those, because of course we all grew up watching all those cartoons. My kids always loved watching them too. But I think one Christmas movie that's really maybe not as obvious as some of the other ones is Scrooged, which I think came out back in '88, I believe. I think it was '88 when it came out. So I was probably like 9 years old when the movie was released. I remember my mom took me and my brother to go see it. I think it probably had been right after the movie came out. Maybe it was the first week that it was out, and it was great. Obviously it's got another one of those movies that has a great cast in it. Of course, you got who is it? You got Bill Murray was in that one, Karen Allen, John Glover. There's just a great list of characters, a great list of people that are in there. Of course, it's a take on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, but it's got kind of a newer twist to it. I really enjoyed it. It's one that I mean, it's probably been a good 5 or 8 years since I've seen it. So maybe it's one I need to go back and kind of revisit. But another one that came out around that same time, I think it was, so if it came out a year later. So Scrooge had been '88, and then National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation came out in '89, and of course it's an absolute classic. Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Randy Quaid's in it, and it's just there's so many. It's probably one of the most quotable Christmas movies, and one that is on. I mean, it's one of those movies. It's probably shown nightly over the month of December, at least like the couple of weeks leading up to Christmas. So at the beginning of all this, I talked about some of those movies I don't consider Christmas movies, like Die Hard, Trading Places. I have one on here that is kind of maybe contradictory to what I said, because I do consider it a Christmas movie, even though it's maybe a little more along the lines of like Edward Scissorhands, which I don't consider a Christmas movie, and that's Gremlins. And while Gremlins isn't necessarily a movie about Christmas, it still kind of is, because they get the Gremlins, the Mogwai. He gets Gizmo, which is the main character in the movie, as a Christmas present. His dad buys it and gives it to him, and then kind of snowballs from there. They get wet, they get fed after midnight, they turn into gremlins, and havoc breaks loose. But so I that's kind of where I can at least connect enough themes in that movie to Christmas to consider it a Christmas movie. Then you got a movie like Home Alone, which is also, in that I mean, you had Scrooge in '88, you had National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation in '89, and then you had Home Alone in 1990. So those 3 years had some classic Christmas movies come out, and that's kind of along the same lines as Gremlins. It's not really a movie about Christmas. I mean, Home Alone can really take place at any time during the year. The movie can, at least. It's not, Christmas isn't a central theme to it, but there's enough of a Christmas theme to that movie that I consider it a Christmas movie. So maybe I guess that's maybe contradictory to what I was saying about some of those other movies, because I guess you can kind of say the same thing probably about Die Hard, that there's enough Christmas-like themes in the movie to consider. I don't know. I still don't consider Die Hard a Christmas movie. Bruce Willis says it wasn't a Christmas movie, so, and he was the main character in the movie, so I guess I'll believe him. I guess the last two I'll put on my list are two very polar opposite kind of movies. The first one is Mickey's Christmas Carol, which is one that I remember watching with my kids. My oldest was born in 2004, so probably the first year or two of his life we started watching that. Mickey's Christmas Carol every year. That's a great story, and it's really well done. And I just remember, like I said, it's just one of those memories I'll always have of sitting on the couch and watching it. We used to have it on DVD, watching that with our kids every year. And then the one that's the polar opposite is Bad Santa, which is a movie that is generally not my kind of humor, but I think it really works in that movie. It's definitely a darker kind of Christmas movie. Of course, Billy Bob Thornton, Tony Cox is in there also, Lauren Graham. It's it's just like dark, kind of offensive comedy that, like I said, it typically isn't one that's up my alley, but it's one that it's an absolute hilarious movie, and the shit that goes down in that movie is absolutely horrible. But it makes for a good movie, and that's another one that I've watched for that came out in early 2000s. 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. So it's another one I've enjoyed for a long time. I guess I'll end season 2 like that. It's watching Christmas movies, watching holiday movies at the end of the year. It's just it's a really great way to end the year off, and I think that's why I wanted to end season 2 of the podcast talking about some of my favorite things to watch at the end of the year. And it's been a great 2 seasons so far of the podcast. Like I said, we'll be back in January to start season 3, and season 3 will run through the end of June or so next year. But we got some great stuff planned coming up for next season, and I guess I'll just leave it all by telling everyone to I hope you have a safe and happy holiday season, regardless of what holiday you celebrate. Have a happy New Year's, and we'll be back before you know it. But if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you watch us on YouTube and give us a thumbs up and everything on there. Leave us a review on wherever you listen to your favorite podcatcher from. But any questions and comments, you can email us at entnowpod@gmail.com. And I guess that's it. I'll see you guys next season. Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you took over if you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, the niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bro. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.